So today we're really pleased to have a out-of-town visitor from the American Radio Relay League. It's Dave Patton NN1N. Dave, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thanks, Tim. It's nice to be here. And just like people come to ARRL for the first time, it's kind of a unexpected pleasure for me to come to Summit Racing, which is also the home of DX Engineering now. As a kid, I was really into cars and building engines, and I didn't do any racing, but it was a great love of mine for a number of years, and to come here is like coming to ARRL for a lot of hams. But I got started in ham radio when I was, well, 11, and my dad was behind all of the kids to get started, and it stuck with me because of one day when he was making a contact with South Africa, and the guy was actually on a safari and describing what he was seeing in Mobile on 10 meters, and that stuck with me. And so I was licensed at 12 and tried a little bit of everything in ham radio over the years, and never really lost the love of it over the years. I went in the Navy, I went to college, but I always continued to use ham radio and participate. Every year there's QSOs in my log, and I'm really happy about that. Stayed current with what was going on in ham radio. And
so your dad was a ham?
Yeah, N9IA.
N9IA. Mm-hmm. And any other brothers and sisters?
No, no one else did it.
No. So you followed in the footsteps of your father.
Yeah.
And do you think that when you went into the Navy, did amateur radio play a part in that?
Big part. My mom, I still kind of regret doing that to my parents, that I wanted so badly to go in the Navy. They thought they did something wrong, but I really wanted to be DX, see the world. So I was just picturing all the great places I could operate from without really considering what was happening truly in real life at that point when I signed the paper at 17, and they had to come to my house and get my parents to okay it.
And so where did you end up? Did you get to live the DX dream?
I did, sort of indirectly. I was a radioman, naturally,
mm-hmm.
and I did very well in the class, and I was supposed to be awarded my choice of duty by being the #1 radioman at school. And I thought, well, and I'd also listen to the detailers tell us where they would send you if you screwed up, like Diego Garcia in Antarctica, and I said, sign me up, you know, I'm the #1 radioman in your class, I want to go to Diego Garcia. Second choice is Antarctica. Third choice doesn't matter because I'm going to get choice #1, right? So, well, it turns out my recruiter had made me a reservist, and I had to go to sea. I didn't know that, of course, so it turns out I didn't get VQ9, I didn't get Diego Garcia or Antarctica. I got Guam, a ship out of Guam, because I didn't pay any attention to my third choice, and that's where I had to go. So yes, I went to Guam for a couple of years, and the Philippines on duty, and most of the time was spent in Guam, though.
So you got on, you had a station?
Yes. Did
you put a station together, or was there a club station, other hams on Guam?
Yes, there were several very active guys on Guam, and one of them had actually made a contact with my dad in the first month I was on the ship. And my dad told him I was there, and this was KD7P, and Bob drove down and found me. I had no idea what was happening, and he said, hey boy, your dad just talked to me, and I'm supposed to take care of you, so come on.
So he took you under his wing,
yeah,
so to speak.
So I got to operate his station, and then through him I bought radios and amplifiers, and I kept them in my barracks, and I had sneaky antennas strung up around the base, and every now and then I would pack all my gear up and take it up to the Mars station on the north side of the island and operate.
Mm-hmm.
Full put together and tear down every time I got on the air.
So being that you were stationed in Guam, did you get to have some leave and travel to some other Asian places that you had only read about?
Unfortunately, I did not. I didn't. I was pretty busy, so I ended up staying on Guam almost the whole time doing radio.
Okay. And then what happened after Guam?
After Guam, I decided I really needed to go to college. I didn't like the enlisted life that much, so I got out, went back to Illinois, and discovered a scholarship for veterans, so I didn't have to pay to go to school, and I liked it, and I finished my bachelor's and stayed on and finished a master's degree. And I did all that at Western Illinois University, And the reason I went to Western is because that's where my friend and contest mentor Lou Gordon K4VX was near. You know, he was an hour and a half away from where I went to school. So again, my school choice was dictated by ham radio, just like my life choices have always been.
So where did you go to work out of school?
Out of school, I stayed on at Western Illinois University for a couple years and ran a program that helped rural public transportation in Illinois. There's 102 counties in Illinois. Most of them are rural. Everybody thinks of Chicago, but most of Illinois really is rural, and not just farms, but there's forest and things in Illinois, and there's people that need public transportation in all those counties too. And that developed into a greater opportunity in Chicago with the Illinois Department of Transportation, running that whole program.
Wow.
So flow through.
How did your professional roads lead you to 225 Main Street in Newington, Connecticut?
That was an interesting opportunity presented to me by Dave Sumner, who hired me as his special assistant in 1999. Of course, I knew Dave, and I've made many contacts with Dave and met him in person, you know, at WRTC meetings and things like that beforehand, but I had been the editor of the NCJ for a year. That's the contest magazine that ARRL publishes. And through that relationship, when they decided, the board and Dave decided he needed an assistant, they kind of thought, who do we know who can get things done? And my name came up, and Lou Gordon, again, there's another connection. He was on the board at that time, and Dave called and said, would you be interested in moving to Newington? And never in my wildest dreams I'd ever think I'd work in ham radio.
Let alone the pillar, you know, the voice of amateur radio in the United States. Yeah. And so when you look back at your career, you know, tell us about the positions that you've had and some of the projects that you've worked on at the ARRL.
The ARRL is such a broad institution when it comes to ham radio. There were a lot of opportunities for things to do. As Dave's special assistant, I right away could see some of the things he needed help with the most were, you know, dealing with membership, a little bit of customer service, answering letters, writing letters, generating awards and recognition, helping with the international side. There were plenty of issues in the international ham radio world that he needed help with, and the ARU, which ARRL basically funds and helps operate. There were things I had to do, canvassing information from all the societies around the world, and keep track of what was going on in the department, as well as learn how to be the recording secretary for the board of directors, which was also his job, and he was able to pay more attention to the meeting by bringing me in to be the recording secretary, and I did that for 20 meetings. At some point, about 2006, so maybe 6-7 years in, I took over the Field and Educational Services Department at Headquarters, which Rosalie White had run for a while. And I guess I need to step back. Before that, the main project I worked on really came about after a board meeting where the board decided we needed to be doing something with electronic QSLing. The world needed it, and they didn't know what it should be or what it should do or how it should work, but they said, we need electronic QSLing, and I need somebody to, they want staff to not just study it, but to study it, report, and implement. You know, it was, you know, soup to nuts from that one motion. And I went to Dave after the board meeting and said, you know, I want to do that. You know, can you put me in charge of this? You know, I know a little bit about operating and QSLing and what I would use it for and how I would use it. And he said, yeah, sure. So that was my project for a couple of years.
So this is the birth of Logbook of the World.
Yes.
And that's been kind of your baby throughout. I know there's numerous staff members at Headquarters that help guys, but certainly it's a cornerstone piece because it changed QSLing forever.
It did.
And it's got a lot of integrity, and certainly the ARRL took a leadership position, and you were there at the forefront of that. Tell me about the success of Logbook of the World. How many guys use it? How many QSL cards are there? Give me some of the highlight stats where we are
Sure.
today here.
Yeah, Tim, Logbook has been successful even beyond my wildest dreams, knowing that it had kind of languished for a few years after we opened it up, turned it on, and gave it the ability to support DXCC. It needed some work, you know, but it was there and it was working, and if people could step through the process with our help, it was fine. I kind of imagined that there were maybe as many as 16,000 people active in DXing at that time in the world. So we were looking at 25,000, 30,000 people, I think, would sign up for Logbook of the World, maybe in the first 5 years. Well, today, without really changing anything up until this year, we've signed up 60,000 people to use Logbook of the World from really, truly around the world. And now the majority of users are outside the US, which is also another interesting aspect of this. I estimate probably 10,000 people tried Logbook of the World and didn't finish for one reason or another. So maybe as many as 75,000 people have touched Logbook. And there are almost 600 million contacts loaded into the system.
Wow.
There are 5 million logs, individual logs, that have been loaded into the system. And of course millions of matches, because Logbook is a double-blind matching system, which is the beauty of it. You know, a ham can't go trolling through the data to find a call that's his or similar to his. That was one of the design parameters. You know, the integrity of DXCC is why people do it, so why make it easier to cheat? And we didn't do that, you know, but we made it easier to do everything else. And besides the integrity and the matching capability, another beauty of the system is the reduction of paperwork. If you use it to apply for awards, there's no more handwriting out thousands of cards and information on pieces of paper. You know, it's all several button clicks away from making an application, and that's something we don't talk about very much, but the time savings is huge by using Logbook of the World.
So in 2014 is a special year at the American Radio Relay League because it's the 100th anniversary of the ARRL, and certainly this is a big event, not only for United States hams, but all over the world. And I understand that you are very involved in these preparations. Can you kind of tell us, give us a high-level sketch of what's going to happen next July and through the entire year?
Yeah. We are the third society to celebrate its 100th birthday. Australia was first, then the Radio Society of Great Britain, and then ARRL. So yeah, it is a big deal. It really is. I don't know why I like all big anniversaries like this. When I was a kid, in 1976, the bicentennial was something I'll still never forget in the 4th grade, how interesting that was, and being able to participate at school. So I'm kind of like into this for ARRL. But if there was ever a time to blow it out, you know, and really celebrate something in our ham radio world, this is it. You know, I think there's a lot of people who are longtime members of ARRL and want to see something like this happen too. So we want to have a convention in Hartford. We have national conventions every 2 or 3 years, sometimes as long as 5 years, but we haven't done one in Hartford, as far as I know, ever. Well, not ever. You go back to the 30s, I'm sure there were some conventions there, but we're going to have a convention that'll be a 2-day event that follows the World Radio Sport Team Championship in the Boston area. So a lot of variables came together to make that 2-week period in July really special. We're bringing in high-level speakers. We're going to have all-day-long courses in various tracks of ham radio, different fields. We'll have a flea market. We're going to use the Hartford Convention Center, which is pretty new and nice, and there's plenty of hotels. It's just the right time to do this. We've been cleaning up ARRL Headquarters. We're painting. We're repairing concrete. We've turned W1AW into a true flagship. It's beautiful. The manufacturers and companies have been great over the years donating equipment for the station. We're going to show that off. We're going to let people operate. We'll have buses running back and forth with tours for that week anyway. And of course we fully expect many more visitors to headquarters. we do 1,000 individual visitors a year. I'm hoping we multiply that by 10 in 2014. And then there's an on-air component to our centennial, which I'm kind of fond of and running, called the Centennial QSO Party. And beginning at 0001 Zulu on January 1st, through the end of the year, obviously at 2359 and December 31st, it's going to be a year-long QSO party where anybody can work anybody, but for the first time, the member of ARRL is worth 1 point. In our past special operations celebrating Hiram's birthday, for example, you can only get points for working life members and other appointees in the organization. But this time, members are worth a point. And the point values are stretched all the way up to 300 for the president of ARRL. So in between is everyone else, including me. I think I wrote myself in for 75 points. So I like pile-ups.
That's good.
And then W1AW, the flagship, we are going to share the call sign with the membership. Mm-hmm. And the call will be used in each state twice, and in hopefully most of the territories at least once during the year. And every week there will be 2 W1AW portable operations in different districts. So we are driving the enthusiasm for that by offering, who would have thought of this in the past, that worked all states with W1AW. And Tim, you're going to host the last week of the year with a big blowout from Pennsylvania. And I think people will be finishing off their point totals working W1AW Portable 3 with, I don't even know. The funny part about this is I have no way to tell what the award point break should be at this point. I don't know. I can't tell. I don't want to start the first certificate too low or too high, so I'm just TBDing it. We'll wait and determine it after we test some logs on the software when it comes out.
So a lot of this is you're writing history every day, and when you think about the last 100 years, certainly in your position with the ARRL and your background, you're thinking about the next 25, the next 50 years. What do you see for amateur radio going forward as we celebrate this momentous event going 100 years? What's next? What's the future like?
Boy, that's a good one. You know, the future is something we do talk about a lot at headquarters. In fact, when I started, we had a Vision 2020 committee that Dave Sumner started, and it was interesting. And now that you make me think about that, that's the first time I thought about that committee in a while. Some of the things that have changed even since then, in the last 10 years or 15 years, are astounding. The technology and how it's affected ham radio, not just in ham radio technology, but in all of electronic technology and various parts of how technology works as used in emergency communications and preparedness, has affected the things we do. In the meantime, hams are still very innovative and have built interesting remote control capabilities, and they're testing the boundaries of what hams view as ham radio, and whether or not it's should be something that people accept as an activity they want to do and partake in. If you want to go online and rent time at a big station over the internet, that's available now. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to continue to be available. And I think international regulations are going to continue to relax so that the opportunity of controlling stations outside the U.S. will grow. And in that respect, the ham radio experience is going to continue to be enjoyed and probably get better as more people have access to this, and it feels more like you're there than ever before.
Right.
I think that's a direction we're going to go, and hopefully we're not going to get dragged into it, but be part of it. I don't think ARRL has any ability to legislate how remote control is going to be used, and why would we? I think we have to accommodate it in all of our operating programs.
Well, we're certainly thankful that you were able to stop here at DX Engineering today. This was an exciting visit for us, and for you to meet some of the staff here that are involved in amateur radio, not only on a professional basis what we do for work, but it's also what we enjoy on the weekends and at our home clubs and things like that. And I want to thank you for your years of service with the American Radio Relay League. It is certainly a love of the hobby that drew you in, and your continued love for the hobby that keeps you there. And we wish you all the best in 2014 with the celebration. And we look forward to beyond 2014 and also a return visit here to DX Engineering. Thanks again, Dave.
Thank you, Tim.